So yeah, I think it's like, yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be it'll be a change of pace for sure. It's sort of like she's tired of the roads because they're like, we're like a historic part of town. So the roads are not awesome to walk on. They're like the cobblestone kind of stuff and it drives her nuts. And there's a lot of hills. She will do anything to avoid hills these days. And it's been like rainy and overcast. Like today it's nice, but, and this weekend we're both gonna be gone and it'll be nice. But we'll see. Hopefully by the time we get into next week and then into March, it'll get more like the normal seasonal sun and stuff that you want to see. So we can have a few more good days out on the ocean here before we head into Albania and take a different tact and learn a whole new language and a whole new culture and everything else. So this will be, I'm just starting to figure out enough to like, I've had 2 Bolt ride. Well, I guess I had a Bolt ride yesterday, an Uber ride today that I like said no English the whole time talking to the driver and had like very minimal conversations, but conversations nevertheless. And so I'm like, hey, getting there.
That sounds like fun. It really does. I thought you were doing Albania next. That's why I was checking because I saw something on Facebook. But I'm kind of, I think I haven't kept up with the full thread. I think I'm only getting bits and pieces in my feed. So I was like, I wasn't sure. So let me check.
Yep. So yeah. So it was, we were going to go to the capital because everything seemed pretty good. And then actually got a place, but like reserved a place and it's just Airbnb. And the lady was like, oh, I got somebody else beach you. So let me see if they still want it. And then at that same time, Natalie started looking at the beaches not too far away. And she's like, well, what about this? And next thing you know, we're like, okay, it's off season. So it's like, I mean, this is beachfront and like some really good stuff is under $1,500 a month. I mean, it's like,
oh, wow.
There's a couple that are walkout. Like you walk out, you could see the sand there. It was like literally, I don't know, 50 meters, something like that, less than a football field away. And, $600-700 a month. So we're like, okay,
Dang.
we're going to take advantage while we're here. We're going to have some fun. And I figure it's like not too far. Like we're on the north side of the beach. If you go to the south side of the beach, which is, I haven't very exactly, we'll see how far that walk is. There's supposed to be really good fishing. So I'm like, And this is like good ocean stuff, like sea bass and stuff like that you can pick up. So I was like, maybe like once or twice a week, that'll be my end of the day thing is I'll just like, or maybe my start of the day is I'll go into town. I'll get myself a good little, rod and reel, get some bait. And then a couple times a week, maybe it's like, all right, we're going to figure out how to we're going to live off the land. We're off the water.
Nice. Yeah. We're hoping to get back to the river here soon, but we're getting into rainy season. So we're actually more worried we may have to really pack up the river more because of flooding. So we're playing that by ear. Sorry,
I wonder what it's going to be like with all the melts off, the melt from the ice and all that stuff we've had. I wonder if you're going to have a worse season than normal.
Well, actually, at least from what we had the rains last week and the melt, but we only went up like about half a foot. So hopefully we won't flood this year. Part of the reason we had so much flooding was because they were working on the dam. So they had to keep the water level really low on the lake side so that they could work on the dam, and that caused the excessive flooding on our side. Not to mention the fact that they found out that some guy was getting kickbacks at the lock to keep the level at a certain height at the lake for all those rich people up there, and that's why we had excessive flooding. So we'll see. It was interesting. Anyway, so this one is the review for Meeky Hwang and the challenge, the Friday challenge.
Yep. So Meeky Hwang, for those of you guys joining us from home, we just talked to her this week. And
actually, you talked to her this week. I was out for this one.
Oh, yeah. That was why this was such a really good conversation. This was one of the best interviews we've had in a long time. It may have something to do with Michael not being there, maybe not. I will just say behind the scenes, I really enjoy after the fact, chirping at Michael during the recordings, because I know he's got to look at it. So they'll just be I'll say I leave him his own little bonus stuff for while he's editing his way through these things. But yeah, it was a really good conversation. Actually, this one went a little This is an interesting one. That's right, because we don't have to start. We don't have to do our little like tres, dos, uno, or anything like that. We're just in, which is even better. This was a good timeout. We'll start with good thing, bad thing. We'll just do a quick like good thing. I know we just gave you guys a little bit of like what's going on, but let's do good thing, bad thing real quick, and then we'll dive right into it. This is what happens when we don't have like a clean, hard, like professional start and end. We just do it. So good thing, bad thing. Real quick. I'm Rob Broadhead, one of the founders of Developreneur, also the founder of RB Consulting, where we help you solve problems. We help you figure out how to use technology to do your business better and clean up your technology junk drawer and all that goodness. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing is, as you guys now know, I'm going skiing in the Alps this weekend. And that's like, I've been a skier on and off all my life. I started snow skiing when I was like, I don't know, 8, 10 years old, something like that. Went almost every year until I was into my 20s. Took 20 years off and went skiing again not too long ago. And after that big hiatus, I did not ski the same way I did the 20 some odd, 30 years, whatever it was before. But it was fun. And so I've never skied outside of Summit County. I believe it is in Denver, maybe, or in Colorado, maybe once or twice, but it's always been in Denver. And so this could be first, and it's going to be very interesting because but the bonus is, the good thing is I have ski in, ski out. It's like literally, I think it's like 100 feet from I walk out the door to I'm on a lift. So that's a real good thing. Bad thing is I'm sitting here halfway through my tenure in Portugal, and I have had, I don't know, in 6 weeks, I don't think I've had 6 days of sun that we were in here in northern Portugal. They've got horrendous rains and stuff like that. It's done a lot of damage. We did manage to go down to the beach for 2 days, that was nice. But we have definitely not hit it in its best time. Another bad thing is now I got to hand it all off and let Michael introduce himself.
Hey, everyone. My name is Michael Meloche, one of the co-founders of Developreneur, Building Better Developers. Also the founder of Envision QA, where we help people with automation testing and streamline their businesses. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, we have finally warmed up a little bit. We kind of have our fall spring right now. Life is actually enjoyable going outside. Bad thing, we're now getting into that wet season, and I got to watch for possible flooding at the river house. But beyond that, looking forward to a nice spring and finally getting back outside from being hibernating in this very cold winter.
Well, welcome all of you guys to number 2, which is why this is still like a little bit rough, of our weekly challenge. We talked this week with Meeky Hwang, and I did. And it got a little less technical, a little more leadership, entrepreneurial. We definitely spent a lot more time than normal, although she'd come out of a technical career. I think this is one of those that I'm glad when we can talk to somebody else like this that has been technical, but now has moved beyond that. And actually, I say someone but it's like, I'm still technical. I write code every day. So I guess although I've moved up to that, I still say very technical, still stay very hands-on. It's always fun to see somebody. Fun is not necessarily the word. It is educational to me to talk to somebody that has gone from that technical approach and moved into much more a managerial type approach. I thought we had some great conversations around building people, which is, like building yourself, your career, building your team, which very much goes to the Developreneur book itself about how do you become, and our title, how do you become a better developer? I think that was really the key. I didn't feel so much that there was like a specific thing or two that was brought out as much as the overall theme of this. And then it's basically my favorite theme is that what we do as developers is we solve problems. Yes, we know code and we blah, 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 all that stuff. that's not really where our value is. The value we bring is solving problems. And this is going to be critical when we move, as we move forward with AI, because there is actually somebody referenced the idea of the other day in a Slack thing about a technology stack that is the no code stack or the no stack stack that basically AI can give us. Is it really doesn't matter anymore. I mean, it does if you want to go deep, but if you want to like just crank something out, and especially as AI is getting better, I think we're going to get to a point that you will have very minimal code that you would have to actually write. So while bonus, I think it's a great way to learn new languages, because you could sit there and say, I've never done Ruby on Rails. Sit down with AI and write a Ruby on Rails app, or better yet, take an app that you know really well and have AI convert it to Ruby on Rails, and then go through and test it and do all that kind of stuff. And you can literally take sections of code and say, I'm pretty sure this doesn't work. This is what the output is. This is what the expectation is. And it'll fix stuff for you. It may take it 3 or 4 times, because it's still, we call him Chip in my household. Chip is still not the brightest bulb. Sometimes he he gets a little bit, a little wonky sometimes, and sometimes he goes off the rails. But because of this, it really is going to become more and more about how you solve problems, how you phrase problems, how you state problems, how you understand what an actual solution is going to be, way more than your code. So what were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I'll piggyback off of what you were just talking about first, and then I had some other observations from the interviews. But talking about AI and Chip, so to speak, on a current project I'm working on, I'm using GitHub Copilot and the plugin for code, and that is almost game changing. I was having to build a Terraform infrastructure as code project to stand up an AWS instance with some configurations and things like that. And it's been a long time since I've built one of those from scratch. And it's like, okay. So I was like, well, here, let me play with this chatbot. And literally it wrote the code. It wrote the entire project. All I had to do is go through the prompts, and literally in the IDE, it built the whole project. I was like, hey, this is kind of fun. So I used this as a little trial feature to go through, and almost 90% of what it built was what I needed. I had to tweak just a few things, but within about an hour and a half, I had a working Terraform project that I was easily able to deploy. And what was kind of cool about it, because of my testing side of things, I pushed it even further. I had it actually write me shell scripts to test the AWS instance to make sure that it had built the things I wanted it to build using the AWS command line to go ping the interface after it stood everything up to make sure that everything got built. And then I even went further and tried to use local stack to set up automation testing. But of course, my license for local stack expired, so I couldn't use some of the extra features. But it's just one of those where AI built me enough, but because I had the understanding of the other things to do to expand it, I was able to continuously get the prompts I needed to build the project up quickly and have it fully functional, fully testable, which was kind of fun. That kind of leads to the interview you had. So one of the conversations you guys were having was talking about, going from that developer mindset to the entrepreneur mindset. And one of the things you guys talked about was how she came out of that mastermind or that group program she was in. That sounded very similar to kind of like that co-starter program I went through. They were different things altogether, but the common theme of that was being around other entrepreneurs, other like-minded people, and just absorbing that energy. You get energized, and it really helps push you and keeps you going and helps you keep the momentum going for whatever it is you're working on, either becoming a better leader, becoming a better business, and so on. So I liked her suggestion of looking for groups to grow and share your experiences. Now, that can be a little hard if all you do is work remotely, but there are groups and things like that you can do online, like join mastermind groups like this or interviews with us. But there's things you can do to broaden that and try to keep that momentum going. It's interesting because over the last 6 months, I have been more in my business and on my business, and I have not had that social interaction with a lot of the people from the co-starters and other business groups, and I've kind of lost that energy. And that was something, as I was listening, I'm like, I miss that. So it kind of encourages me to go back out and look for that. The other thing, as we talked about adopting the AI technologies and how fast should you move forward, that was one of the things you guys were talking about where, some businesses want to get into AI. They're not sure what they want to do. And even if they are doing something, they don't know when to go to market with it. And then you run into that trend of, okay, are we just keeping the status quo? Are we starting to push the edge? Are we on the bleeding edge? Or are we beyond the edge? Are we doing something that we don't know what we're doing yet? We're pushing boundaries beyond where the current market is. And it really kind of hit home. It's like, how many times have you and I, or even other people, talked about where how fast is fast? How fast should we get to market? There's always get it out there as fast as you can, get feedback, and you get into that feedback loop. But sometimes you don't want to get out too quickly because you don't want to get your idea out and have someone steal it before you have enough protection around your intellectual property rights. So you got to be careful with some things like that. But at the same time, especially in the current market or current environment of AI, I almost think that you just have to keep going and try to stay as much on that cutting, bleeding edge as you can right now, and just try things. Like the example I gave with the Terraform project, like the example you gave. Go pick some chatbots, go try it. You should be trying to do this like daily, at least something small to keep pushing forward and keeping up with what's going on, because if you wait, you're going to miss the boat. And this is growing so exponentially compared to how the .NET boom was, what we went through the information boom of the 2000s. We're going so fast now, it's scary. What took decades and half a decade, we're looking at months to years before things are really moving forward. So I really liked the conversation, and I liked a lot of the conversations you guys had about the leaderships. We talk about that a lot here on Developreneur. It just, I'm sorry I missed the interview, but it really sounds like a lot of the conversations that you and I have had, from like the global leadership meetings, from the different networking things we've done. It was just a very good conversation. And hopefully you guys have listened to the interviews, because if you haven't, go back and listen to it, because it's one that I highly recommend you go back and listen to, because there was a lot of good information. And like Rob said, it wasn't very technical, but it is very good for leadership, for growing, for self-improvement.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was one of those. There was a lot of, I won't go to the full, it wasn't like, the John Lee Dumas value bombs dropped kind of things that he used to mention. I assume he still does. But there was a lot of little things. They weren't bombs, they were bomblets, I guess. There was a lot of little things there that, even as just going through the conversation and then thinking about it a little bit afterwards, there was a lot of things that also, besides just being good, like, hey, this is a good way to approach stuff, they are good, like little, like, nudges to be like, to get yourself back doing the right thing. Like you said, like now you're like, oh yeah, I guess I do need to go back and reach out to that. And those, I think, are invaluable lessons to learn. That's why I love doing the podcast. I love talking to people. I love being on podcasts, because so often we'll have these conversations and it'll be like, oh, I need to be working on that. Oh, that's something I should do. Oh, I forgot. I haven't done that in a while. Those kinds of things. Now, granted, there's like all kinds of other little germs of ideas that have skyrocketed me in directions in the last 6 months or a year that I'm just like, that's right. I need to really tackle this. But it was a good conversation like that, and it's not too heavy. I think it's a really good one for like. It is. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen, like while you're working out, while you're on a run, exercise and driving to work, whatever it is, because it's one that I think is really good for for you to canoodle over, as they would say, and let it like bake in a little bit, as opposed to having to like really, take detailed notes about any specific item, because it's a lot more conceptual in theory than a whole lot of specific stuff. However, this being Challenge Friday, we're gonna have to figure out some kind of like, special effect or something like that. Let's see. I can do. What can I do? There we go. Challenge Friday. I don't know what else I've got here that would be a good one. That's about as good as I can do. So, let's see. I can do. Let's see. So we're gonna have to figure this one out. So, here we go. There's like,
there
look,
we go.
it's okay. I need to take that thing down because I'm struggling with this. There we go. Oops. There we go. Okay. I think this is what happens, and I'm not even drinking yet. So this has been one of those kind of days. The challenge this week. This comes off of something that we got out of AI suggesting challenges, but it's a modified version of it, and it's specifically because I've really gotten on. I've really sort of gotten on this AI kick a little bit about getting people to realize that it is here. There is value in it. If you're not using it even for some basic stuff, then you're missing out. And if you're using it just for like, writing an email or something like that for you and not interacting with it, then you're also missing out. And that's where this challenge comes. It's actually twofold. The first part of it is to the discussion we had. And one of the things we talked about was being able to communicate problems and solutions. And so, one of the things we could do is we could just say, well, like, hey, go talk to somebody, take the technology speak out of it, take all of the cool phrasing and stuff like that, and just talk about solving the problem without, and I will tell you, I pick on Michael on this at times, without talking about the implementation. Talk about the problem. Don't talk about the geek side of it or the implementation side of it. Don't use technology terms. Do it like you could tell, you're talking to your grandmother or something like that, and she would understand it. And I want to have and what does a good solution look like? So what I want you to do, this is a challenge. Sit down with the chatbot and say, here's a problem. Here's a solution. And then ask the chatbot, how, whoever it is, whichever one you're working with, is say, how would you phrase that better so that somebody that was non-technical would understand it? And then see how it scores you. And now, by non-technical, you may have to get a little more detailed. You may be like, so my grandmother would understand it, who has never used a computer or something like that. That may be too much. But then with that is say, how can I improve my description of the problem, and how can I improve defining the solution? Because I think if you go down that rabbit hole, and I think this could be, I'll challenge you, just take 15 minutes to do this, but you can go down rabbit holes and be there for an hour or two easily. I'll just warn you, because when you get into this back and forth, when you get into an actual chat, an actual conversation with AI, where you're not just beating it and saying like, do this, do this, do this, do this. Instead, it is conversation. You're saying, give me an attempt at this. Okay, how about we tweak it this way? How about we adjust it that way? And then you give it back to me and say like, what am I missing? Where can I do this better? How could this be better better suggest like the solution? How could it be better done for the problem, or the problem? Where is this not well defined? And it would be things like, can you AI, can we take this problem and create a requirements document out of it, or something like that, or a spec? Because when you get into that back and forth, I think it's really going to highlight to you where some of your weaknesses are in language. And I think it'll also train you a little bit. It will help you figure out ways and get you those habits of, how do I better define a problem? And how do I better ask questions about a solution? This is critical for going from a coder to a developer, to get into that, intermediate, senior level developer type, and especially beyond. These are things you've got to do. You've got to move off of that thinking in code and instead thinking in problem domains and solutions. So that, I think, I like that as our challenge for the week. I'm probably going to do it myself. Actually, I do it myself on a regular basis where I take stuff and I throw it at it. I've got an ongoing, very long folder of a conversation for something I'm building that actually I built it. Actually, AI built it. And then I did some more. And then I've kicked it back to it and said, how do we make this better? And how do we productize it? How do we do all these things? And so now we're like, and it's basically like, show me the gaps. Show me where we need to do this. How is this wrong? How are we missing this? Give me tests for all of this stuff. Those kinds of things that when you start doing that, you're going to realize where you can not only better define the problems that you need, that you're working with, and then thus better build a solution that makes sense. But also, this is where we can go back and fix the crap that we couldn't before. This is a technical debt game changer in a sense, because you can go back where you're like, oh yeah, we never documented it. Oh, we never had unit tests. And AI can just crank that stuff out for you. It may not be perfect, but it can get you a long way on erasing technical debt very quickly if you do it right. And I'm going to get off my soapbox and ask your thoughts on this.
No, because I'm the one who kind of went through the AI to kind of work through the challenges based on the interviews. And the interesting one that I liked it because it was like, bounce it off your wife, talk to your wife about it. And when you're trying to deal with non-technical people, that's great. But I like the idea of talking to the AI and have AI kind of help you figure out where you're too technical, get it back down to non-geek speak, so to speak, get back to business speak, and get it back down to, like, as we've talked about, pitching our businesses, getting it back down to that elevator pitch, get things to where it is common speak, where anyone can understand what it is you're doing. They don't have to be technical. And really, that's the way you want it to be. It's like, what was Apple's slogan? 1,000 songs in your pocket to sell the iPod. So
yep.
Something like that, work. I love it. Work with AI and come up with a better way of analyzing and dissecting your speech so that you can help communicate better on whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah, and I think it's not a bad thing to like get in that practice too. And then just like, if you're struggling with something, put that in, throw it through AI, throw it through a couple different AI engines and let them like hash it out amongst themselves even. Go back and forth with them and just say like, where is this? What am I missing? What have I not specified? What have I not detailed? And hopefully that will help you build like a checklist, a mental checklist of like, oh, here's some things I've got to go through to make sure that I do this right. And then what you'll find is then as you go further down the road, as you're starting the problem, you'll already have specified that stuff if you do it to AI again. And so now you can just like keep taking it up to another level and another level and another level. And I know this is leveraging AI a little bit more than what we talked about this week, but I think it's a nice little 1-2 punch of getting yourself thinking in ways that isn't a developer, isn't writing code, but also how to leverage some of the tools around you. And it's honestly, chatbots, you can easily throw some prompts in there to make them be like your wife or a 6th grade teacher or a college professor or a homeless person you meet on the street or the president of the United States, or you just pick it. They pick any famous person or any non-famous person or any archetype and just say, okay, you're this kind of a person. And here's my problem. Here's how I describe it. How do you respond to it? Or, how do you understand it? Stuff like that. What are the questions that you have? Those kinds of things just, I think in general are going to help you out because they get you more in that exploratory state of mind. Closing thoughts?
Along with the challenge, again, go back and listen to the interview with Meeky. It was great. And broaden your horizons, get out, network, meet people. And, if you haven't followed us before and you're new to Developreneur, go out and look at our podcast. We've got hundreds of videos out there, both podcasts and discussions, and along with courses and information on the website. So give us a shout, check us out, and let us know what you think.
All right. Thanks so much for hanging out with us again, guys. I'd love feedback. Michael doesn't. He hates feedback. I love feedback. So, leave us comments, shoot us emails. All the different ways to get a hold of us. If you don't, listen to one of those podcasts, but spoiler alert, info@developreneur.com, or just go to developreneur.com, and there's like lots of different ways to connect with us. Let us know what you think. I would love to hear your responses and some of the things that you come up with in your challenges, and how like AI can be very funny in how it solved problems as well. So sometimes if you don't do a great job of defining the problem out properly, AI will give you some really interesting answers. I'm just going to say, and I would love for you guys to share that. Give us your thoughts and opinions and all that kind of good stuff, how we can do this better. And we're just going to keep chugging along. We will be back next week. We've got yet another interview. We're going to continue this for a while. Getting there as we're solidly now into this 28th season, I believe it is. 27th season. Check out the email. The newsletter goes out once a month. We've got a lot of good stuff there that actually we're now getting. So that is some unique content in and of itself. So that's really sort of the thing, is if you hang out here, you check the blog site, and you subscribe to the newsletter, then you'll be caught up on all the different stuff that we throw out there. And it's a lot. There's a lot of content out there. Always happy for requests though. That being said, I think it's time for us to wrap this one up and to go and jump into our day. So have yourself a good one, everybody. Have yourself a great day, a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.